Part 1. The Breaking Point. The rain hammered against the window of Marcus Chen's studio apartment like 1,000 urgent whispers, each drop carrying a message he wasn't ready to hear. It was 3:47 a.m., and he sat hunched over his laptop, the blue glow illuminating the dark circles under his eyes that had become as permanent as tattoos. His reflection in the blackened screen looked like a ghost of someone he used to know, or maybe someone he was supposed to become but never did. 32 years old, single, broke, disconnected from his family, working a job he despised, living a life that felt like watching someone else's movie on repeat. The email sat in his inbox, unopened for 3 days now. The subject line read, "We regret to inform you." He didn't need to open it to know what it said. The startup he'd poured his savings into, the one that was supposed to change everything, had collapsed. 2 years of weekends, sleepless nights, and borrowed money gone. Marcus closed his laptop and stared at the ceiling, tracing the water stain that looked like a map to nowhere. His phone buzzed. A text from his younger sister, Emma. "Dad's in the hospital. Heart attack. Where are you?" His hands trembled as he read the words again. When was the last time he'd called his father? 6 months? 8? They'd argued about Marcus dropping out of his master's program, about chasing pipe dreams instead of stability. His father had said things, Marcus had said things, and then there was just silence. He grabbed his keys, threw on a jacket, and ran out into the rain. Part 2. The Hospital. St. Mary's Hospital smelled like antiseptic and desperation. Marcus found his family in the ICU waiting room, his mother Catherine, eyes red and swollen, his sister Emma packing like a caged animal, and his younger brother James sitting motionless, staring at his hands. "You came," Emma said, her voice sharp with accusation and relief. "How is he?" "Stable for now." His mother's voice was barely above a whisper. "Where have you been, Marcus? We've been calling." "I'm sorry, What could he say? That he'd been hiding from his own life, that answering their calls would have meant admitting he'd failed at everything he'd promised himself he'd achieve. A doctor emerged, and they all stood in unison. "Mr. Chen is going to be okay," she said, and Marcus felt his legs nearly give out. But this is a serious wake-up call. The stress, the poor diet, lack of exercise, his body was sending signals for months. He ignored every one of them. Marcus felt those words pierce through him like arrows. Wasn't that exactly what he'd been doing? Ignoring the signals, ignoring the slow decay of his own life. "Can I see him?" he asked. His father looked small in the hospital bed, tubes and wires connecting him to machines that beeped with the steady rhythm of borrowed time. His eyes opened when Marcus approached, and for a moment, neither spoke. "I'm sorry, Dad." His father's hand, weathered from 40 years of construction work, reached out. Marcus took it. "I'm the one who should apologize," his father said, his voice rough. "I pushed you. I didn't listen. I wanted you to have security. I didn't want you to struggle like I did." "I know. But looking at you now, son, I see someone who's struggling anyway. Maybe worse, because you're struggling alone." Marcus felt tears burning his eyes. "I don't know how to fix this, any of it." His father squeezed his hand. "One day at a time, one thing at a time. That's how I built every house, every structure. You don't start with the roof, you start with the foundation." Part 3. The Stranger at Dawn. Marcus left the hospital as the sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that seemed impossible after such a dark night. He found himself walking without destination, his mind replaying every failure, every missed opportunity, every moment he'd chosen the easy path over the right one. He ended up at Riverside Park, where joggers and dog walkers were beginning their morning routines, people who had their lives together, people who had systems and discipline and purpose. "You look like a man who's lost something important." Marcus turned to find an elderly man sitting on a bench, feeding pigeons from a paper bag. He had kind eyes and the sort of face that held 1,000 stories in its wrinkles. "Is it that obvious?" "I've worn that same expression," the man said, gesturing to the space beside him. 40 years ago, I sat on this very bench after losing everything my business, my marriage, my sense of self. I was 50 years old and felt like my life was over. Marcus sat down. What did you do? I made a deal with myself, 10 promises, 10 things I would work on every single day, no matter what, not when I felt like it, not when it was convenient, every single day. And it worked. The man smiled. I'm sitting here at 90, aren't I? Healthy, happy, connected to my family, still learning, still growing. The last 40 years have been the richest of my life. He pulled out a worn piece of paper from his wallet. I still carry this, want to see. Marcus took the paper, yellowed with age, covered in neat handwriting. The 10 daily promises. Move your body. Feed your mind. Create something. Connect with someone. Plan your day. Practice gratitude. Face one fear. Give to others. Reflect and learn. Rest with purpose. These 10 things changed everything, the old man said. Not overnight, not in a week or a month, but day by day they built a life I'm proud of. Marcus stared at the list. It seems too simple. Simple isn't easy. Most people confuse the two. The old man stood up, leaving the paper in Marcus's hands. The question isn't whether it will work. The question is whether you'll work it. Part 4, Day 1, The First Promise. Marcus went home and taped the list above his bathroom mirror. Day 1, he would start with the first promise, move your body. He hadn't exercised in years. The thought of going to a gym filled him with anxiety, but he remembered what his father said, you don't start with the roof, you start with the foundation. At 6 a.m., Marcus put on an old pair of sneakers and stepped outside. The morning air was crisp and clean. He started walking, just walking, around the block. Then 2 blocks. His lungs burned, his legs ached, but something else happened too. His mind began to clear. With each step, the crushing weight of his failures seemed a little lighter. Not gone, but manageable. By the time he returned to his apartment, sweating and exhausted, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Accomplished. 1 promise kept. The second promise was feed your mind. Marcus realized he hadn't read a book, watched an educational video, or learned anything new in over a year. His mind had become a stagnant pool. He went to the library, a place he'd loved as a child but abandoned as an adult. The librarian, a young woman named Sarah with bright eyes and a genuine smile, helped him find books on personal finance, habit formation, and emotional intelligence. Starting a reading journey, she asked. Starting over, Marcus replied. Those are the best kind of beginnings. That night, instead of scrolling through social media until his eyes burned, Marcus read for 30 minutes. The words felt clumsy at first, his attention span shattered from years of digital overstimulation, but he pushed through 30 minutes, 1 page at a time. 2 promises kept. Part 5, The Creative Spark. The third promise haunted him, create something. Marcus hadn't created anything in years, not since he was a kid drawing comic books in the margins of his notebooks or writing short stories that his English teacher said showed promise. What could he create now? He wasn't an artist. He wasn't a writer. He was just Marcus, failed entrepreneur, absent son, mediocre employee. But the promise didn't say, create something great. It just said, create something. He found an old sketchbook in a box of childhood belongings his mother had made him take when he moved out. The first few pages were filled with crude drawings of superheroes and spaceships. He turned to a blank page and just started drawing. A tree, the view from his window, his father's face in the hospital bed. The drawings were terrible, but they were his. He had created them. They existed in the world because he had taken action. 3 promises kept. Part 6, The Power of Connection. Connect with someone. This promise terrified him most. Marcus had become a master of isolation. He had 847 friends on social media, but couldn't name 5 people he could call in a crisis. He'd pushed away relationships, cancelled plans, let friendships die through neglect. He started small. He called his mother. Marcus, is everything okay? The fear in her voice broke his heart. He'd trained them to expect bad news. I just wanted to hear your voice, Mom, and to say I'm sorry for disappearing, for not being there. Silence, then quiet sobbing. I've missed you so much, baby, we all have. They talked for an hour, about nothing, about everything, about his father's recovery, about Emma's new job, about James's struggles in college, about the family barbecue he'd missed, and the one before that, and the one before that. We are having dinner on Sunday, his mother said. Will you come? I'll be there. 4 promises kept. Part 7, The Plan. Promise 5 was plan your day. Marcus had been living reactively for years, letting life happen to him instead of making life happen. Every morning blurred into the next, a cycle of snoozing alarms, rushing, forgetting, and ending the day wondering where the hours went. He bought a simple notebook, nothing fancy, just spiral-bound paper, and each morning before checking his phone, he wrote down 3 things. 3 goals for today. Most important thing. Next important thing. Third important thing. The first day, his list was simple. Walk for 20 minutes. Read for 30 minutes. Call Mum. But having a plan changed everything. Instead of drifting through the day like a ghost, he had targets, direction, purpose. And when he checked off each item, he felt something he'd forgotten existed, pride in himself. 5 promises kept. Part 8, The Gratitude Shift. Practice gratitude felt awkward at first. Marcus had spent so long cataloging everything wrong with his life that looking for what was right felt like speaking a foreign language. At night, before sleep, he wrote down 3 things he was grateful for. Day 1. Dad survived. The rain stopped. Hot coffee this morning. The list felt forced, trivial, but he kept at it. Day 5. My legs work and carried me 3 miles today. Sarah, the librarian, remembered my name. I laughed at a joke James told me. Day 10. Woke up without my alarm. Finished an entire book. I'm trying, and that matters. Something shifted. The more he looked for good things, the more he found them. It didn't erase the hard things. The debt still existed. The failed startup still strung, but they were no longer the only story. 6 promises kept. Part 9, Facing Fear. Face one fear. This promise demanded courage Marcus wasn't sure he possessed. His fears had become his prison guards. Fear of failure, so he stopped trying. Fear of rejection, so he stopped connecting. Fear of judgment, so he stopped creating. Fear of vulnerability, so he stopped being real. He started with the smallest fear he could identify, calling his old business partner, David, the one he'd been avoiding since the startup collapsed. His hand shook as he dialed. It rang 4 times. Maybe he wasn't home, maybe. Marcus. Hey David, I need to talk to you about everything, about how it ended. I've been a coward. They met for coffee. The conversation was painful. Marcus apologized for not communicating better, for making decisions without consultation, for abandoning ship when things got hard instead of facing the problems together. David listened, then he said something unexpected. I've been angry at you for months, but you know what? I made mistakes too. We both did. The business failed, but that doesn't mean we have to. They didn't become best friends again overnight, but they became honest with each other, and that was a start. Each day, Marcus chose one small fear to face. Email his debt collectors instead of ignoring them. Apply for a better job instead of settling. Tell his therapist the truth instead of pretending to be fine. Ask for help instead of drowning alone. 7 promises kept. Part 10, The Gift of Giving. Give to others seemed impossible. What could he give when he had nothing? Then Marcus realized giving wasn't about money, it was about attention, time, presence, skills, kindness. He started volunteering at the library where Sarah worked, helping kids with reading. 1 hour every Saturday morning. The first Saturday, a little boy named Tommy struggled with a book about dinosaurs, frustration building with each stumbled word. You know what helps me when something's hard, Marcus said, breaking it into tiny pieces, not the whole book, just one word, then the next word, then the next. Tommy tried again, one word at a time. By the end of the session, he'd read 3 whole pages and was beaming. I did it. You did it, Marcus agreed. Walking home, Marcus realized he just taught that boy the same lesson he was learning himself. Progress is built one small action at a time. He started looking for small ways to give every day. Held the door for someone. Let someone merge in traffic without road rage. Sent a thank you email to a colleague. Donated clothes he didn't wear. Listened, really listened, without waiting to speak. 8 promises kept. Part 11, the practice of reflection. Reflect and learn was the promise that revealed patterns Marcus had been blind to. Each night he wrote briefly in his journal. What went well today? What could I do better tomorrow? What did I learn? At first it felt like homework, but over time it became a conversation with himself, the kind he'd been avoiding for years. Week 1, reflection. I realized today that I use my phone to avoid feeling things. Every uncomfortable emotion, I reach for a screen. I'm teaching myself to sit with discomfort instead. Week 2, reflection. I snapped at Emma today when she asked about my job search. Then I apologized an hour later instead of letting it fester. That's growth. Week 4, reflection. I've walked every single day this month. Every day. Old Marcus wouldn't believe it. I'm starting to not be old Marcus anymore. The patterns emerged. He made better decisions in the morning, struggled most after work, needed more sleep than he was getting, felt best when he created things, and needed social connection more than he'd admitted. 9 promises kept. Part 12, the rest revolution. Rest with purpose was the promise Marcus misunderstood at first. He thought rest meant collapsing on the couch and binge-watching shows until his brain turned to mush. But purposeful rest was different. It was intentional recovery, quality over quantity. He created a nighttime routine. 9 p.m., phone in another room. 9:30 p.m., read. 10 p.m., gratitude journal. 10:15 p.m., lights out. The first night, he lasted 20 minutes before grabbing his phone, just a quick check. 2 hours later, he was down a rabbit hole of videos about people failing at obstacle courses. He tried again the next night, and the next. Slowly his sleep improved, his energy increased, his mood stabilized. He also learned to rest during the day, real breaks, not just switching from work to scrolling. A walk at lunch, 5 minutes of breathing, closing his eyes and doing nothing. Rest wasn't laziness, rest was fuel. 10 promises kept. Part 13, the compound effect. 6 weeks into his 10 daily promises, Marcus barely recognized his life. He'd lost 15 pounds, his mind felt sharper, he'd read 4 books, his relationship with his family had transformed, he'd faced more fears in 6 weeks than in the previous 6 years. His apartment had artwork on the walls, his own sketches, rough but improving. He'd helped 5 kids learn to read at the library. He'd applied to 12 new jobs. He was sleeping through the night. But the biggest change was internal. He no longer woke up dreading the day. He no longer felt like a victim of circumstances. He had agency, control, not over everything, life still threw curveballs, but over his responses. His sister Emma noticed first, "What's different about you?" "What do you mean?" "You're here, present. I've missed this version of you." His mother said something similar, "You have light in your eyes again." Even his father, now recovering at home, pulled him aside. "I don't know what you're doing, son, but keep doing it. I'm proud of you." Those words, "I'm proud of you," landed in a place Marcus didn't know was empty. Part 14, The Setback. On day 53, Marcus woke up feeling like he'd been hit by a truck. A stomach bug, vicious and unrelenting. He couldn't walk, couldn't read, could barely think. His first thought, I'm going to break my streak. I'll have failed. But then he remembered the old man's words, simple isn't easy. He did what he could. He couldn't walk, but he could stretch in bed 5 minutes. He couldn't read, but he could listen to an audiobook 10 minutes. He couldn't draw, but he could text his mother, feeling sick but thinking of you. He realized something profound. The promises weren't about perfection. They were about showing up, even when showing up meant giving 10% instead of 100%. The next day, still weak, he managed a little more. The day after that, more still. By day 56, he was back to full strength, and he hadn't broken his streak, he just adapted it. Part 15, The Job Interview. The call came on a Tuesday. A tech company that valued creativity and problem-solving wanted an interview. The position paid twice what he currently made. Old Marcus would have spiraled into anxiety, obsessed over every possible question, stayed up all night preparing, panicking. New Marcus used his 10 promises. He moved his body that morning to calm his nerves. He fed his mind by researching the company. He created, sketching out his ideas for their projects. He connected, calling David for advice. He planned, preparing 3 key stories to tell. He practiced gratitude for the opportunity. He faced his fear of inadequacy by walking into that building anyway. He gave, treating everyone he met with respect and curiosity. He reflected afterward on what went well. And he rested that night, trusting his preparation. 3 days later, we'd like to offer you the position. Marcus stared at the email, reading it 5 times to make sure it was real. Part 16, The Celebration. Sunday dinner at his parents' house had become sacred. Every week, the family gathered. Emma brought her new boyfriend. James talked about his improving grades. His father, growing stronger each week, grilled chicken in the backyard. I have news, Marcus said, and all eyes turned to him. I got a new job, a good one. Cheers erupted. His mother cried happy tears. His father hugged him long and tight. How did you do it? James asked. How did you turn everything around? Marcus thought about the old man in the park, the list, the daily promises that had seemed too simple to matter. I stopped trying to change everything at once, he said. I just focused on 10 things, every day, no matter what, and those 10 things changed everything else. Part 17, Paying It Forward. Marcus started noticing people who looked the way he used to look, lost, disconnected, going through the motions. At the library, he saw a young woman, maybe 25, sitting alone, staring at a laptop with tears in her eyes. Rough day, he asked gently. She looked up, startled, then nodded. Rough year. Want to talk about it? Her name was Maya, unemployed after being laid off, living with 3 roommates she didn't like, feeling like life was passing her by, 25 and already exhausted. Marcus saw himself in her story. Can I share something with you? He pulled out his own worn copy of the 10 Promises, the one he'd rewritten from the old man's list. This is going to sound too simple to work, but I promise you it works. He explained each promise, told her his story, not the highlight reel but the real one, the hospital, the failures, the slow, unglamorous work of rebuilding. You're telling me walking and reading books changed your life. I'm telling you that doing small things consistently changed my life. The walking and reading were just the beginning. The real change was in showing up for myself every single day. Maya took a picture of the list. I'll try it for a week. Try it for a day, then try it for another day. Don't think about week 2 until you've done week 1. 3 months later, Maya sent him a message, day 90, still going, applied to 10 jobs, got 3 interviews, started painting again, thank you for the list, but mostly thank you for believing someone like me could do it. Part 18, The Evolution. A year after that morning in the park, Marcus's life looked completely different. He'd been promoted at work. He'd saved enough to move into a better apartment. He'd reconnected with old friends and made new ones. He'd exhibited his sketches in a local coffee shop. He'd paid off a third of his debt. He'd run his first 5K. He'd taught 20 kids to read at the library. But more than the external changes, he'd transformed internally. He was no longer someone things happened to. He was someone who made things happen. The 10 promises had become so integrated into his life that he didn't think about them anymore. He just lived them. They were as natural as breathing. Move your body. He ran 4 times a week and walked every day. Feed your mind. He'd read 42 books and taken 3 online courses. Create something. He drew daily and had started writing stories again. Connect with someone. He called his parents twice a week, had coffee with David monthly, and volunteered regularly. Plan your day. Every morning started with intention and direction. Practice gratitude. His journal was filled with thousands of small blessings. Face one fear. He'd started public speaking, joined a leadership program, and said yes to opportunities that scared him. Give to others. He mentored 3 young professionals and volunteered weekly. Reflect and learn. His insights journal had helped him understand himself in ways therapy never had. Rest with purpose. He protected his sleep like it was sacred and took real vacations. Part 19. The Return to the Park. 1 year and 17 days after the worst morning of his life, Marcus returned to Riverside Park at dawn. He hoped to find the old man, to thank him, to show him what those 10 promises had built. The bench was empty. Marcus sat down and watched the sunrise, the same pink and gold that had greeted him that terrible, beautiful morning. You came back. Marcus turned. The old man stood there, feeding pigeons from a paper bag, smiling like he'd been expecting him. You knew I would. I hoped you would. Most people don't. They take the list, try it for a few days, then drift back to old patterns. But something about you that morning, you were broken enough to be rebuilt. The list changed my life. No, the old man said gently, you changed your life. The list was just a map. You had to walk the path. They sat together in comfortable silence. There's something I don't understand, Marcus finally said. These 10 things seem so ordinary. How do they create extraordinary change? The old man smiled, because extraordinary isn't one big moment. Extraordinary is ordinary done consistently. Most people are searching for the secret, the hack, the shortcut. But the real secret is there are no secrets, just simple things done daily with commitment and love. I want to help other people the way you helped me. Then do what I did, sit on a bench, notice who's hurting, share what worked. Don't expect everyone to listen, but when someone is ready, truly ready, the list will find them. Part 20. The Legacy. 5 years later, Marcus stood in front of a TEDx audience. 5 years ago, he began, I was broken, lost, disconnected from everyone I loved, including myself. My father's heart attack saved my life because it forced me to face the truth. I was dying too, just more slowly. He told his story, the hospital, the park, the old man, the 10 promises. I know what you're thinking. This sounds too simple, too basic. Move your body, read books, be grateful. These aren't revolutionary ideas. He paused. You're right, they're not revolutionary. They're evolutionary. Small changes, repeated daily, evolve into a completely different life. Not overnight, not in a week, but over time, with consistency and patience, they become who you are. He showed his 10 promises on the screen. The 10 daily promises. Move your body. Physical health creates mental health. Feed your mind. Growth requires new information. Create something. Expression prevents depression. Connect with someone. Relationships are everything. Plan your day. Direction beats wandering. Practice gratitude. What you focus on grows. Face one fear. Courage is a muscle. Give to others. Purpose comes from service. Reflect and learn. Wisdom comes from examination. Rest with purpose, recovery enables growth. These aren't just tasks to check off, Marcus said. They're investments in yourself. When you work on these 10 things every day, you're not just changing habits. You're changing your identity, from someone who hopes for change to someone who creates it. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of people approached him. Can you email me that list? Will you mentor me? How do I start? Marcus answered each person the same way. Start tomorrow, just one day. Don't worry about day 30 or day 100. Just show up tomorrow and do the 10 things. Then wake up the next day and do them again. Part 21, Full Circle. That evening, Marcus visited his father, who was now fully recovered and as active as men half his age. I'm proud of you, son, not just for the success, for the man you've become. I learned it from you, Dad. You told me, one day at a time, one thing at a time, foundation first. His father smiled. You took that principle and built a life with it. They sat on the back porch, watching the sunset. Dad, do you remember what you said in the hospital about the signals your body was sending? I do. I think we all get signals, not just physical ones. Life sends us signals through pain, through failure, through the moments when we're forced to stop. I'm grateful for my signals. They woke me up. What signal woke you up? Yours, your heart attack, was my wake-up call. I realized I was having a heart attack too, just emotionally and spiritually. If I didn't change, I was going to die inside. So thank you, Dad, for almost dying, because it taught me how to live. His father pulled him into a hug, and Marcus felt 10 years old again, but also older, wiser, more himself than ever. Epilogue, The Bench. 10 years after that conversation in Riverside Park, Marcus Chen, now 42, sat on the same bench where the old man had once sat. His hair had threads of silver, his face had lines earned through laughter and growth. His life was rich, not perfect, but deeply, profoundly good. He held a paper bag of seeds, feeding the pigeons. A young man, maybe 25, sat on the far end of the bench, his shoulders slumped, his eyes hollow, the posture of someone who'd lost something important. Marcus recognized that look. You look like a man who's lost something important, Marcus said gently. The young man looked up, startled, then nodded. Marcus smiled. I've worn that same expression. 20 years ago, I sat on this very bench after losing everything. What did you do? Marcus pulled out a worn piece of paper from his wallet, the same one the old man had given him, now carried through 2 decades of daily practice. I made a deal with myself, 10 promises, 10 things I would work on every single day, no matter what. He handed the paper to the young man. These 10 things changed everything, not overnight, not in a week or a month, but day by day, they built a life I'm proud of. The young man stared at the list. It seems too simple. Marcus laughed, the same laugh the old man had given him. Simple isn't easy. Most people confuse the two. The question isn't whether it will work. The question is whether you'll work it. He stood up, leaving the paper in the young man's hands. Take it, use it, and someday, when you're sitting on this bench, pass it on. Marcus walked away, smiling, knowing the list would continue its journey. Because some wisdom isn't meant to be kept. It's meant to be shared, one broken person to another, one promise at a time. The 10 daily promises. Your journey begins. 1. Move your body. Start small, a 10-minute walk, 5 push-ups, stretching. Movement isn't about perfection, it's about showing your body respect and building the physical energy that fuels everything else. 2. Feed your mind. Read 1 page, watch 1 educational video, listen to 1 podcast, learn 1 thing. Your mind is a garden, what you plant grows. 3. Create something. Write 3 sentences, draw 1 sketch, cook 1 meal, build 1 thing. Creation is expression, and expression is the antidote to depression. 4. Connect with someone. 1 real conversation, 1 call, 1 meaningful interaction. Relationships are the foundation of happiness. Invest in them daily. 5. Plan your day. 3 goals, write them down. Create direction instead of drifting. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. 6. Practice gratitude. 3 things you're grateful for, said aloud or written down. Gratitude rewires your brain to see abundance instead of scarcity. 7. Face 1 fear. 1 uncomfortable thing, 1 hard conversation, 1 small brave act. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action despite it. 8. Give to others. 1 act of kindness, 1 moment of service, 1 generous deed. Purpose comes from contribution, not consumption. 9. Reflect and learn. 5 minutes of journaling. What went well? What could improve? What did you learn? Growth requires examination. 10. Rest with purpose. Quality sleep, real breaks, intentional recovery. Rest isn't laziness, it's the foundation that allows everything else to work. A final word. These 10 promises aren't magic, they're mathematics. Small actions, repeated daily, compound into transformation. Not because each action is special, but because consistency creates momentum, and momentum creates change. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be persistent. You don't need to do everything right, you need to keep showing up. You don't need a better life tomorrow, you need a better day today. And when you string together enough better days, you wake up one morning and realize you've built a better life. The question isn't whether this works. The question is, will you work it? Start tomorrow, just one day. Do the 10 things. Then wake up the next day and do them again. That's it, that's the secret. There is no secret. Just you, your choices, your commitment. And 10 daily promises that will change everything. Your journey begins now.